Square Farm and a partner in Excel Star Sport Horses. And this is Training Tip Tuesday. Today we have Mallory on the camera, and we have Reese who's going to help us with some clipping. Today's all about clipping. And so we'd love to hear where you guys are calling from. We'd also like to know if you have any questions. So please feel free to call with any questions, or not call, but write any questions. And then we'll get to them as we go along. Hopefully we'll be able to help you guys have your horses looking neat and trim. So to start with, you have your equipment. So, well, I guess I should say first and foremost, you want the animals that you're going to be clipping to be clean, right? So it really requires a very good bath. And that might mean that you have to bathe the horses twice, maybe even 3 times sometimes, and they need to be dry. I know a lot of people will actually clip wet horses. I've never had a whole lot of great success with that. So I don't do that. And like I said, everybody has their tricks and trades. Hey, Joy, what's the deal? Joy's getting a little impatient for her time in the spotlight. Anyway, so first off, start with a very clean horse. Then the other thing you want to start with is you want to start with the right equipment. So we use Andy's clippers. We really like them for the big clippers. I do have some of the Monster Osters. They're in the back hallway. I don't tend to use them so much. They tend to be heavier, louder, and they cover you in hair. So my personal preference is to use something smaller and easier. The horses tend to like these a lot better. And then for the small clippers, I generally use the wall clippers. You can see we have a selection because, well, we go through a lot of clippers over time. So these all have adjustable blades, the wall clippers, and you can see on the back side how there's a little switch here. So this side, when they're at this position, means that they're the same as the big clippers. So we're going to show you how to do legs today. And so when we do the legs, sometimes the horses are very sensitive, and so we'll use the clippers on this side. When we get up to the face and like the ears, I like to do them on the surgical setting, with the clippers being very precise, and so you push that way over there. So do we have any questions or anybody tuned in yet, Mallory? Doesn't look like it. Okay, very good. So the other thing is you like to have backup clippers, blades. Can you get us the clipper blade box? Again, we go through clipping a lot of horses. I would think we probably in a winter season clip between 40 and 50 horses a year. And so we generally send out our clipper blades a couple of times during the year to different companies to clip them. And then the other thing is we also do have our clippers serviced regularly. Oh, can you give me the box that has all the clipper blades in it? So sometimes we'll start with new clipper blades if all of our clipper blades are dull. But as you can see, we have a whole lot of clipper blades that have been sharpened for us. So anyway, so have your clippers, have them charged if they are cordless and have extra batteries. Make sure you have safe cords on the other ones if you're using big clippers. And then you'll see some other items. We use Cool Care, again, Andis product, to spray the clippers with to keep them cool as we go along. The whole deal with clipping is to be safe, both for the horses and for the people. People have gotten badly hurt clipping. So if for any reason you think that the horses aren't safe and they need sedation, talk to your veterinarian, and they'll recommend some sedation that will work for you. But it looks like we have a question.
Paige is asking, where do you send them for sharpening?
We generally Google that. We have a company in Philadelphia that we've been using and a company in Montana. I'm happy to provide you guys with that information, but the company in Philadelphia has been really good for us to work with, and they do all of New Bolton's work, so I feel pretty confident with them. So, moving on to horses. People have different things that they clip. This is Lucky, and as striped. And so what we did is, if you come over this way, Mallory, you can see this is Lucky as he appeared yesterday. And he's gotten his mane pulled. He's had a little bit of a spa day. We do need to bang his tail, but we haven't done that yet. But obviously he looks neat and trim and clean and everything's good. But since we are an active competition and sales barn, we like to have the horses looking neat and tidy and trim. Now, different people do different things. I like clipping from their toes to their tails to their ears because I think it's easier to maintain the horses that way. If you have horses that are out or not going to be ridden a lot over the winter or have a thin coat, we can do different styles, and we're going to talk about that later. But you can see, so if you look, it's a, hi, it's okay, it's all good. He has a pretty hairy leg, right? So we're gonna change sides. We're gonna change it up here, Lucky. And now you can see he looks like a supermodel, right? His legs all clipped out. You can see all of the tendons and ligaments, and he looks great. He looks like $1 million. So this was a clip we did last night, and you can see there are a few little rough patches here there, but overall, a really nice job. This was done by a gal who works for us, Cassie, in the evenings, and she did a super, super job. So, to clip, to get on to the things that we're working on. What you're going to do is you're going to start with your clippers. You've got your horse. He's clean. He's tidy. Assuming your horse does not need sedation, I usually start with their shoulder. If your horse needs sedation of any kind, I generally will start with their hind legs because their hind legs are going to be the most dangerous part that can hurt you. And so if you've got a horse that does need sedation, that's usually where I start. So, Lucky is a good boy. We're very fortunate in the way our barn was designed that I put a lot of electrical outlets everywhere. So we have the option of plugging in there or plugging in over there or on the other side. So I'd just like to pat the horse, tell them everything is okay. Of course, now the clippers are working. There we go. Live TV. I'm going to just plug it in somewhere else. Plug it up here. There we go. So you want to just start with a nice even pressure, and you want to go against the hair coat. You can see how that works, right? You also, when you're clipping, you want to wear clothes that aren't going to be get hairy. A fleece is actually not generally what you want to be wearing, but it's what I wore this morning because it was cool. Generally, I will clip in the evening so that when I'm finished, I can just go in, take off all my clothes, take a shower, and get rid of all the hair. So, you can see here, I'm going against the clipping. Now, what if you're new to clipping and you do something like, for example, you dig in really hard or you go in sort of at an angle and you see how there are lines there, right? How do you get rid of those? Because you don't want, you know, like a bunch of lines on your horse's coat, right? So how do you fix that problem? So the way you're going to fix that is by going sort of against that, and then sort of like a magic eraser. If your blades are sharp and everything's good, it'll go. Sorry for that brief interruption. Someone telephoned me. Don't call me during Training Tip Tuesday. So there you go. So you can see if you go against where the clip mark is, where the line is, you can get rid of a lot of the lines. Now when you're doing something like a shoulder, you want to make sure that you just follow the line, right? You don't want to dig in. You can see I'm not adding a lot of pressure here, but you just want to keep sort of an even pressure, and you can see that comes out pretty well. Now, a couple people have asked me, well, do you clip? Is there a certain time of year you clip, or a certain time of year you don't clip? And the answer for me is no. I clip all the time. I'll clip in the springtime. For example, when Tag was going to Kentucky, he oftentimes got really hairy and would need to be clipped about once a month. And so for him, Joy, love having girls. Anyway, so for him during the winter when he was competing, he got clipped almost once a month. So it does happen. Do we have another question?
Brenda asked, are all of your horses this quiet, or do you have to sedate the young ones sometimes?
Sometimes I have to sedate the young ones. Lucky is very easy to deal with. We've been really blessed with some of the horses we've got from Ireland. They're super to clip. We've also had young ones that we do need to tranquilize, and we do need to deal with it that way. And I'm fine doing that. In fact, I prefer that. If the horses are giving me any trouble, I don't want anybody to get hurt. So let me show you how we do legs, and then I'm going to have Reese start with finishing up his legs, and then we're going to go on to Joy. So when you're doing legs, again, they can hurt you, so take your time and be easy. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pick up the horse's leg. And just get them used to the clippers, right? Now his hair is pretty thick, and so I almost have to go a little bit light against his skin first and then come back and finish it, right? So we would continue doing that all the way up the leg. Now, I'm going to move him over a little bit because my clippers are getting tight against the side. Reese, could you just help me? Can you just push him over for me? Just maybe hold him there. So when I'm doing the front of the leg, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pull the leg forward. Good boy. To get it off the ground, right? So that I'm just working up against the hairline there. Just have to be patient with them, right? Now, let's say you didn't have a horse that was as quiet as Lucky. Maybe you would want to go to one of your smaller clippers, right? Making sure that it's not on the surgical side. I have had a couple people work for me over time use the surgical blade and do a whole horse with them. So that was sort of a fun situation, but it's hair, it grows back. So you can see these are a lot quieter than even the big clippers that we have. And so if you've got a horse that's sensitive to noise, sometimes these work really well. So picking his leg back up. They're also slightly smaller in the laid area. So sometimes it's easier to do the legs with these because the horses don't object to them so much. Let's say though you weren't, I'm going to go back to my big clippers. You were going to say, I'm going to keep the horse's legs on. My goodness. For example, my husband rides a horse called Who's a Star Tag, and he lives outside. And I can tell you right now, I'm not going to clip his legs because he's not very good for it, and he lives outside. So for him, we'll leave his legs. So the question is like, how do you deal with the top of the leg, right? So that it looks good. What we generally like to do, you can see how the muscle cuts from here to here. And so what you want to do is put your clippers on, be slightly higher than you want to be, finishing as a line, and go like that. Because you'll see how I missed down here? So you just go back if you're slightly high and finish up along that line, okay? Okay, so then to the front of the leg, right, because you've got this big hairy leg still, you cut across here. Same sort of thing. And you want to use where the muscle goes. Now, we're at a whirl, you know, where the horse's hair goes in all sorts of directions. Now for this, you've got to make sure that you cut against the hair leg. So what this means is that you're going to have to go a little bit different ways with your clipper blades. Okay, and you can see there that I had to go this way and that way to get that done. Okay, and then to finish out the leg, what I do is I go underneath the belly, and I'm actually going to let Reese do that. So while we're still working on the leg, and he's got a nice hairy leg so everybody can see, Reese, would you pick up his leg and let me work on his elbow? Show everybody how you do elbows. So their elbows can be real sensitive, right? This whole area. And so it's always helpful to have someone work with you so that they can pull out the front leg. You can do this on your own if you need to, but sometimes you'll get a horse who takes a lot of offense to having their elbows down, and it's just a lot easier to do it this way. And then you find your point down here. And you sort of clip around. Again, you can always take more off, but you want to be careful about getting down and getting too aggressive with your lines to start with. Oops. Okay, buddy. You're fine. Good boy. Good boy. I didn't mean to do that. Super. So you can see there's just a little bit, a little bit of tuft there. And I'm just getting this one little tuft of hair right there, okay? And then, oops, don't leave me, Lucky. Okay? So there you go. All right, so that's how you'd finish up the top of the leg. So what we're going to do now is we're going to swap Joy for Lucky. And then we're going to show you a few things about how you can do different things, and we'll let Reese continue to work on his legs. You go that way, Reese. Okay, the other nice thing that you like to work on, so if you want, you can use the little clippers and just keep working on the leg and the rest of him. So the one nice thing about our barn is